Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of Intuitive Angling, and man, I really appreciate each and every one of you guys swinging by to check today's video out. Always grateful for that. Guys, today we're going to be talking about Dave Mercer's podcast he did with Gerald Swindle a couple days ago, and sort of a couple sort of disturbing things that came up on that particular video. We're going to get into that today and have a little conversation on it, and I'd be curious to get your guys' opinion on it too. Also, guys, just a big thank you to everybody out there that's taken time to subscribe to the channel and to use my Tackle Warehouse links and my Solar Bat links in the description. That's a great way to give back to the channel, so I just wanted to give everybody a big thanks that's been participating in that before we get started in the video. Okay, guys, if you didn't see it, Dave Mercer had Gerald Swindle on again on his podcast. He's had him on quite a few times this year. It's always entertaining out there, and first of all, before I get into this, I just want to say that, man, I love Dave Mercer. I just, I've done several podcasts with him. I think he's just great all the way around. So I don't have anything bad to say about Dave. And even though Swindle has badmouthed me several times in podcasts, I don't have anything against Gerald. I got a tremendous amount of respect for him as an angler. He's an absolute hammer, and he's so funny to listen to. I really enjoy listening to him on podcasts. So I want to clarify for that. I don't have anything against both of these guys here. But anyway, there was two comments made that I really want to dig into this particular video. And then I'm going to dig into forward-facing sonar a little bit. It's been quite a while since I've done a forward-facing sonar video. And I promised you guys as soon as stuff came up, I'd keep you informed of it and talk about it a little bit. But the two things that really disturbed me in this video towards the end of it, and actually Dave made a comment that, yeah, when Randy Blockett sees this, he's probably going to do a video on it, and he was right on that, so I couldn't let it lie, is first of all, Dave made a comment towards the end of the video basically saying, what's the point of even making a cast for bass anymore unless you can see a bass on your forward-facing sonar? And then Swindle was talking about the new shallow water anchors out there that have trolling motors on the end of the shallow water anchors that basically act as brakes to allow you to position yourself better for spotlighting for bass out there. And when I heard both of those guys, it really, really made me sad to hear that for a couple different reasons. I want to get into that. Now, first of all, I'll tell you a little story to preface this before we get into it. I think a lot of people out there have probably seen the movie Saving Private Ryan before. And if you have, you remember this scene. And if you haven't, there's one scene in there where Captain Miller, who is portrayed by Tom Hanks in the show. Anyway, they're leading a patrol across the French countryside there, and they run upon this German machine gun emplacement there. And as that wasn't their mission to take this machine gun emplacement out, they had something else that they were going to do. But Captain Miller decided they couldn't just bypass this because they may kill some more American patrols that came by there. So anyway, they attacked this position, and they killed most of the battery there, the people who were in there, and they took one German prisoner. And everybody, his entire platoon, Captain Miller's platoon, was wanting to kill this German. They were just because, one of the Captain Miller's platoon got killed, and they wanted to kill this German out there. And they were, basically they were making him dig his own grave and, getting ready to execute him. And right about the time they were getting ready to do that, Captain Miller intervened and said, let him go, let him walk. And it really pissed off some of the members of the platoon that Captain Miller was going to let this German, go to maybe go back and join his group again and kill some more Americans. But Captain Miller, told the guy, says, you got to agree to turn yourself into the nearest American patrol, and we'll let you go, which they did. So there was a big hoo-ha, and there was a bunch of tension amongst the platoon. Everybody was mad at Captain Miller, and he made a comment. He goes, every person that I kill in this war, every German that I kill in this war, it makes me feel that much away from home. I feel further away from home every time I do that. In other words, he loses part of himself. And I'm not trying to equate this forward-facing sonar with war. That's not what I'm trying to do. But the point is Captain Miller realized that when he took a certain action that was negative to things that really grounded him as a person, that had a detrimental effect on everybody. And it's the same with forward-facing sonar and spotlighting, guys. when Mercer made that comment about there's no reason to cast for a fish unless you can see it, and when Gerald was talking about this even advancing technology that now we have trolling motors on our shallow water anchors to help us with spotlighting. Every single time that happens, it drags us further and further away from fishing, what fishing is really meant to be. We are losing sight of that so rapidly, what fishing is. It is becoming nothing more than a commercial venture out there, rapidly in front of our eyes. And the problem that we have with this is when Swindle and Dave Mercer were having this conversation, they had the tone that this was just the way it is. And they're beginning to normalize it. And once we start normalizing this technology and fishing out there, that is when we get into continuing to lose every aspect about fishing is important. Now, I know there's a bunch of bass fishermen out there that don't know how to wear their hats on correctly, that don't understand that. They can't comprehend what I'm talking about when they talk about losing the aesthetics of fishing and the intrinsic value. I get it. Some people, they don't have the ability to wrap their mind around that. But guys, every single person out there on some level has an understanding about that. Because take Swindle, for example. Now I'm speculating here. I'm not speaking for Gerald when I say this, but Gerald was an expert at skipping jigs underneath boat docks. I'm sure if he had his ruthers, he would rather go to a tournament skipping jigs under boat docks and throwing a chatterbait or throwing a buzzbait than having the weenie worm out there with forward-facing sonar. Speculation, but I think that's a pretty accurate assessment if I had to agree with that. But here's what I think that Gerald and Mercer and a lot of people that have sort of fallen in line and are beginning to normalize this forward-facing sonar fail to realize. Because Swindle made another good point out there. It's like, you can't compete without it. And they were both talking about that. It's physically impossible to compete without it. And Gerald said the days of flipping a jig and doing good in tournaments are over. You can't do that anymore. There may be an outlier here and there, but basically if you can see them on forward-facing sonar, you better be fishing for them. And the conversation took a turn which really disturbed me as far as the normalization of this. Like basically, there's just nothing we can do about it. And guys, I'm going to continue hammering this home because it's true. It's true. The only reason that conversation existed in Mercer's podcast with Swindle out there was because of the tournament organizations allowing this. If it wasn't for them allowing that, nobody would have to deal with this. We wouldn't have to deal with the price of boat and motors now going to go freaking through the roof, since now you got to have trolling motors on your shallow water anchors. And now all the technology, every time there's a technological advancement in electronics, the price shoots up out there. All this type of stuff that comes about as a result of that is nothing more than a decision by by MLF and Bassmaster to allow that technology to exist. I go back to it again and again. If they would say, guys, we're not going to allow this, it's just like golf, we're not going to allow, just like the PGA did, last month when they said they're not going to allow a certain golf ball because that technology is allowing the pros to hit the ball too further. They're going to go back to the way it was 10 years ago. If MLF and Bassmaster would grow a spine and grow a pair and basically tell these electronic companies, guys, we can't do that. This is not good for the sport. This is not good for the look of the sport. It's not good for the sustainability of our fisheries out there. There's nothing beneficial about this whatsoever out there. We're going to set a baseline where we're not going to allow forward-facing sonar or any similar type of technology in our tournaments. You guys can use your side imaging, you can use your down imaging, you can use your GPS and your 2D sonar, and then go out and figure those fish out. This is the baseline that we've set right there. Now, forward-facing sonar is great. It's an incredible tool out there, and it only needs to be in the hands of the conservation department and the fisheries managements. It does not need to be in the hand of the recreational and sporting anglers. It needs to be in the hands of the people that are responsible for ensuring the sustainability of our fishery out there. We wouldn't be having these conversations if the tournament organizations would do the right thing, but they're not. The tournament organizations, FLW and Bassmaster, are failing the sport, and they're failing the future of the sport by allowing this technology to exist. Now, I realize fully, guys, there are some YouTubers out there that think they're smarter than what they really are, that are saying, Randy, you're full of it, the data and the facts. I've talked to the conservationists, and the data and the scientific data does not agree with you. It's not doing anything to the sport. Bullshit, guys. The data, the quote data and science that they are using is inaccurate. It is not true out there. When you're trying to determine if forward-facing sonar is impacting a fishery on whatever species that you're looking at, and you're interviewing people that come off the water and asking them how many fish they caught that day, that's not scientific data. That is full of holes out there. That's why, eyewitness testimony is the least credible type of testimony in any type of trial. You can't trust people, what they say with that. That is not scientific data. And when they say that, okay, look at the statistics, look at the tournament weights 10, 15, 20 years ago, there's no difference. We're still catching the same fish. You know why you're still catching the same fish? Is because the technology, the lure and rod and reel and electronic technology is creating this illusion that the fishing is better simply because you're tapping in to a population of fish that were inaccessible before. If you took the same techniques that the fish were caught 30 years ago, same lures, same techniques, and applied them to 2023, that's when you get more of an accurate sampling out there. But you can't say that the fishing is sustainable because the anglers are better, there's more information out there, the equipment's better, the technology's better, there's nowhere for these fish to hide, people are simply better at catching fish. And when you take that away and you go back in time to the same technology that we had 30 years ago, you would find that there's far fewer fish in the lakes than we've ever had before out there. I see this over and over and over in my own fishing. I see it over and over again in all my friends across the country. I see it over and over again in all the comments I get from people that are on my side of the aisle with this out there. Everybody that fishes with non-spotlighting techniques says the fishing is tougher than it has ever been now on public bodies of water out there. So the data that they're trying to use to justify this and defend it from those people that are unable to catch fish by real bass fishing techniques, and they realize they will not have a career if forward-facing sonar goes away, they have a vested interest in skewing the data on this over here. Make no mistake about it, guys. If forward-facing sonar goes away, there is a segment of the professional anglers in this country that careers would tank along with that. So they have every motive whatsoever to undermine any type of opposition to people putting on limitations on forward-facing sonar out there. So we've been over this over and over again. We've been through all the reasons. I've done tons of podcasts on it over and over again. But the point is, this interview that Mercer did with Swindle, it's just another acceleration in the technology. What are we going to have next, guys? What are we going to have in 2030, 2035 as far as the technology? At what point do we say, guys, this is out of hand, we got to stop this? This is just, we are just, this whole AI influx into bass fishing, what the hell are we doing here? Why are we drifting so far away from what fishing really is? What's the point? To pad the pockets of the electronic companies? Because guys, I can tell you right now, the only thing that I see, the only people that are benefiting from this in this entire thing are the electronic companies' profit margins. It's not benefiting anyone else. Yeah, it's allowing some anglers that don't have the ability to catch bass normally to catch fish that they normally wouldn't have. But from my opinion, that's a selfish motive. That's not any type of a higher principle that is concerned about the future and the sustainability of our fishery. Every single person that I've talked to that is an adamant defender of forward-facing sonar, they look at it for what's for them here and now. They don't look at it for the bigger picture out there. And until we start adopting this philosophy that we can't keep normalizing electronic technology, guys, fishing is going to go down the tubes. There's no other way about it. You can't continue for the angling population to get better and better and better and better on a macrocosm level and not have some interference or not have some effect with the fisheries out there. We've already said it over and over again. It's just like the interview I did with Chris and Trait Zaldane talking about the guy that was over the fisheries in Texas, saying that he agreed with my point of view on forward-facing sonar out there. So anyway, I was just a little upset with it out there. And like I said, I'm not saying anything bad about Mercer and Swindle, because Swindle made the point that is just true. He said that they have been forced, and he didn't say that, but basically he's saying he did say if you don't use it, you can't compete. And I'm going to add to that, the tournament organizations have forced the anglers into the position, if they do not use this and they do not purchase it and they do not subsidize the electronic companies, then they can't compete. So you tell me, why is it legal for some dude now to have 3 trolling motors on their boat, and they can have $100,000 worth of electronics on their boat, and it's still illegal in a tournament for me to jump out of my boat in 6 inches of water and drag it over a mud flat into deeper water? That is just total bullshit. It's ridiculous. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about it, guys. Shoot me some message on that. I'll be curious to hear, and we'll talk later. See y'all.